is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, if you type your questions or comments into whatever platform you're watching on, they will show up here in my chat room and we can talk directly. And pardon my nose, we keep going back and forth from spring to winter, and my immune system is not here for it. But that is actually the subject of our program today. I was going to talk about the Equinox Sabbats, that is to say, Ostara and Mabon, as they are modernly called, and about the phenomenon of the equinox itself. And in modern parlance, the equinox is the beginning of spring or fall, depending on whether we're talking about the vernal equinox or the autumnal equinox. And this was not the traditional reckoning, but it is the modern reckoning. Traditionally, this would be considered the middle of the season. And hello to Antonio in the chat room. And I always think of it in those terms, and that's about where we're at. It's the middle. It's kind of going back and forth. Winter can take longer to leave sometimes than others, and it's not unusual here in the Midwest for it to be in and out this way. And hello to Bimby in the chat room. It's good to see you. An equinox, of course, literally refers to an equal length of night and day. And at the equinox, that's what we have. It is the 2 days a year when day and night are at equal portions. The solstices are the opposite, the longest day and the longest night. And these are important sabbats in the Wiccan year. And hello to Janet in the chat room. And they're important in many other systems as well. We actually celebrated the equinox. The equinox actually happened on Tuesday. For some people, perhaps Wednesday. It's important to notice that the equinox does not happen on the same day every year. I just finished Reverend Don's Book of Astrology, and one of the important points that I had to make there, because people often seem to have forgotten, is that the astrological calendar begins with the vernal equinox. And this is not the same date every year, and therefore the dates of the astrological signs are not the same every year. If you are born right at the change between one sign and another, you need to consult your particular year to know which of those signs you're actually under. Because if you are looking at a book that gives you one date, it isn't necessarily going to be yours. They vary by a couple of days every year. And this is part of the idea of honoring the wheel of the year, that we cannot make it conform to what we desire. We have to look at what is there. And when we work with astrology, again, those dates are not always the same. The equinox is always going to be one day every year, not always be the same one. And this is important to bear in mind. The same is true for the solstices. We follow a very stylized calendar in daily life, and we do that for purposes of dating that are very important. And hello to Jason in the chat room. It's good to see you, Jason. And I'm a great believer in that secular calendar for our everyday purposes, but when we look at the natural year, it's not quite as even as all that. One of the things I've been seeing going around online for a while now is how we should be following a lunar calendar with 30-day months and this and that and so forth. It's quite a long post usually. And it totally forgets the fact that we did do that. And the problem with it is that it's based on the idea of a 365-day year, which is not something that actually exists. It's a 365 and I think a fifth or a quarter day year. It is not even, and therefore there are all kinds of little mathematical things you have to do to make a calendar that gives you more or less the same date every year. Um, it is not a simple equation, and simple numbers aren't going to do it. And of course, that is a very rarefied concern, a very rarefied issue, until you stop and consider the effect of not paying attention to it. One of the interesting things in studying Egyptology, the Egyptians had a fascinating calendar. Um, and it was basically the same one that's outlined in this post. The problem was it did not align in the end with the natural year because they had not realized it was not actually 365 days. And after a while, it got to be hundreds of days out of alignment every year. Um, and so when they were expecting this or that other thing astronomically to happen, it wasn't coming up the way that it should have. The solstice was being religiously celebrated on a very different day from the actual solstice, which made the calendar in the end almost useless. And that's when they had to come back to it and look at it again and create a new one. Um, we've kept doing that over hundreds and hundreds of years now. And we're certainly closer to having a working calendar than we've previously been. But it's not a simple equation. Now, coming back to the equinoxes, they're about the equal balance of day and night. They happen within a range of a couple of days every year. And what do we tend to focus on at that time? We focus on balance. We focus on a variety of things, to be sure, but balance is a big one. Hello to Brenda in the chat room. It's good to see you, Brenda. For me, the fall equinox in particular focuses on ideas of justice and karma. The idea that just as the harvest is coming in, bringing us back the efforts of our farming year, so too life brings us back the results of our efforts. And it's a time to stop and think about that, to think about what we've done, what the results have been, how we want to change it going forward. In my mind, that's very much what the fall solstice, the fall equinox is about. The winter solstice, of course, is a totally different thing. The spring equinox, again, is very much about balancing, and I very often will stop and think of this as the time for a good energetic balancing going forward into the year. And it's also a time to think about what we're planting toward that eventual harvest. And like I say, for me, the traditional thing that I tend to do at this time, although certainly you do it whenever you need it, but in terms of ritual, I think it's a good time for a chakra and energetic balancing. And that tends to be what I do during the spring equinox. And we'll see what time does. Maybe we'll do a little brief meditation on that today. The equinoxes are not what we would call the most important Sabbats in the Wiccan calendar. And hello to Mary in the chat room. But I'm starting to think maybe we should be paying a little more attention to them, a little more attention to what they represent. I think that the issues of balance. Oh, and Mary says I look great. Thank you, Mary. That's very kind of you. It's a little cold here today, so I decided to wear my nice little warm turtleneck and to actually put on a jacket. More for the sake of warmth than for anything else. although I usually will wear the jacket when I go out of doors. But it's been a while since I've worn the jacket to do the broadcast. And maybe I should again. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for your compliment. It I think we don't pay enough attention to the results of our actions for all that we talk about it a lot. And I'm not going to specify anything in particular, but I see people in our community taking actions that they can't possibly have really thought about. Um, Certainly not from a karmic point of view. Um, I always thought that we made a lot of emphasis on the importance of karma, the importance of considering what your actions may bring back to you. But sometimes it seems like we still, as a community, don't think about it. Hello to Christine in the chat room, and hello to Lady Kai in the chat room. I said well, probably more than once in the last year that when it comes to that, um, in the end, I trust my life to speak for itself. And when it comes to karma, I have always considered the results of my actions, and as a result, I feel that I'm doing quite well in life, all things considered. Um, and I think we all must think in those terms. And I know there are people out there who say, "I don't believe in karma." Well, that's nice. Um, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be thinking about the results of your actions. Even if you're not looking at it in those terms, your actions are going to have results. Um, and acting like your actions don't have any results is probably not going to be a good policy, no matter how you look at it. Um, and to me, these particular sabbats are all about thinking of that subject. What do we get for what we do? What plants do we raise from the seeds that we sow? Um, if you look around the world today, it seems like an awful lot of people are giving rein to very bad behaviors based on their emotions and no thought involved, and not considering where that could lead. Um, and it can lead to some very bad places before it's done, politically, socially, um, and in one's personal life. So, at the risk of being a little um, stodgy, perhaps, my strong advice is to always consider your actions, to consider where they're taking you, to consider what they're going to bring to you. Because in the end, they do always bring results. And, if you're making all of your decisions based on hate, you're not going to be getting a lot of love in your life. You're going to be drawing basically bad feelings to you because it's all you're surrounding yourself with. If you are, um, and Jason in the chat room says that it's a basic law of physics. For every action, there's an equal reaction. Uh, we could also say like attracts like. If you shroud yourself in negativity, negativity is what you're likely to get. If you spend a lot of time lying and making false accusations against people, and I'm not trying to make a political point here. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm talking about behavior. Um, I will leave you to decide whose political positions are or are not accurate. But I think it usually doesn't take a lot of research to make a good decision if you're willing to move past your emotions and look at the situation. But if you surround yourself only with negativity, if you um, if you practice disseminating a lot of falsehood, what do you think that's going to bring to you? Certainly isn't going to increase your credibility. It certainly is not going to build a solid foundation under you. And when I scroll down Facebook, as I often do because I do so much work through Facebook, as well as other platforms, some of the postings that you see from organizations of various sizes, political parties, um, meme factories, some of the things they say are an insult to intelligence. If you stop and actually look at them with critical thinking, you don't you can't possibly take it seriously, but people don't do that. They react emotionally. Now, Brenda says, be the better person and take the higher road and accept the consequences for your actions. And that's basically what I'm saying. Um, when we stop and look at the Equinox Sabbats and the idea of our actions and their consequences, the best policy is always what I commonly say: do the next right thing, and you'll get the next right results. And hello to Nikki in the chat room. It's good to see you, Nikki. As we come into the upcoming election, and again, I'm not necessarily referring to anything someone's saying in the election. Not necessarily not, but we must look at our choices with critical thinking, not emotion. Hello to Tom in the chat room. If we wish to make a choice that will be beneficial to us, when we look at other things in our lives, we need to look at it with critical thinking and not get caught up in sudden emotional reactions, and certainly not be motivated by our prejudices, which realistically we should be working on overcoming anyway, if we expect to have a positive result. You're not going to have a positive result if instead of critical thinking, you're making your decisions on knee-jerk emotional reactions. It's not really quite what I thought I was going to talk about on the subject of the Equinox Sabbats, but I do think it's highly relevant to the actual meaning of these Sabbats. Hello to Reverend Eric in the chat room. It's good to see you, Reverend Eric. Now, I also wanted to take a moment and talk about the upcoming worm moon. And a few things about that. The worm moon, if you're unaware, is the next full moon, which will be coming this weekend. I will not. It's more. My personal equinox rituals are mostly going to be on Sunday, and will more or less correspond with the worm moon as well. The worm moon is going to be marked by a lunar eclipse, and this will be on the night of March 24th, the early morning of March 25th, and apparently will take about 4 hours from start to finish. And many people who may be watching will actually be able to see that. And it certainly will be worth seeing. But in addition to being worth seeing, it's also worth attuning to those energies, because a lunar eclipse is different from a solar eclipse in terms of its meanings, but not necessarily any less important. We talked about the solar eclipse and how it represents renewal and rebirth, at least from my background and my point of view. And it represents that chaos moment of breaking patterns in the world. A lunar eclipse is much more internal, but otherwise kind of the same. It brings hidden things to light. It's a perfect time for trying to work on internal problems, a perfect time for shadow work, a perfect time for clearer vision of self. And it will tend to bring that to you whether you're working on it or not. A lunar eclipse is the chaos moment for yourself, um, internally, in much the same way that a solar eclipse is externally. So the kind of work that you might want to do for this full moon are things dealing with those subjects, with personal knowledge. Um, kind of continuing the subject I've been talking about, personal integrity. The fact that it corresponds, um, certainly not exactly with the equinox, which, as I say, happened earlier this week, but so soon after means that those energies are still there. Um, the fact that it corresponds to the full moon means that you have the which of course it would, but the high energy of the full moon. Um, it's a good time for bringing forth um, the things you want to know about yourself or about the world in general. It's a good time for bringing things forth from their shadows. Um, the fact that it's the worm moon, however, also adds a little bit to this too. What does the worm moon mean? What do we think of with the worm moon? It certainly corresponds to, for many people, the start of the year, the start of the astrological year. It's early in our Wiccan liturgical year, certainly part of the sprouting of the year. It's the time when, conventionally speaking, the worms return, coming from their safety underground to return to the physical world. What do worms do? The worms create soil. They're not the only thing that creates our soil, but they're a big part of it. They, in that way, are one of the main supporters of life. Um, and so it's a time definitely to think of rebirth and renewal. And so I would say that this lunar eclipse is all about personal rebirth, renewal, regeneration, cleansing, and a good time to work on those things. So I want to encourage you to do that. Now, I said earlier that we might take a few moments and do a brief meditation on balancing our energy. So I think that since we have a few minutes left, why don't we do that? And I'm going to ask you to find quickly a nice, comfortable position, um, and just take a moment to clear and release all excess energy. Let it flow out of you like water, running down your arms and your legs and out through your hands and your feet, to be reused by the universe in other ways. Release all tension, all anxiety, and focus yourself in the here and now. Become aware of your heart chakra. Imagine your heart chakra at the center of your chest. Imagine it as a ball of white light, shining out in all directions like a white sun within you. And from that ball of white light, imagine with me a tendril of white light moving downwards, down from your heart through your body, down through the middle of your body, down through the ground into the earth. You see that tendril of light become a beam of light, moving farther down into the earth, moving through the soil, moving deep into the bedrock of the earth. You see that beam of light going farther and farther toward the center of the earth until at last it comes upon the center, the molten center of the earth, the beautiful golden energy of the molten rock at the center of the earth. And allow that golden energy to come up through your beam of light. See it coming up through your beam of light, up through the ground, up through the soil, up into your body and into your heart chakra. And see it fill your heart chakra with the glowing golden light to the center of the earth. And let that glowing golden light move throughout your body. See it expanding from your heart and filling your entire body with the beautiful shining golden light. And let that light expand beyond your body to fill your aura. And see it expanding around you to fill the ball of light around you that is your aura with shining golden earth energy. And in that energy, feel the strength and vitality of the earth. And know that that strength and that vitality is yours as you go forward. Let it fill you entirely. Now from your heart chakra, imagine another tendril of white light, but this one going upwards. Feel it going upwards through your head, out through your crown, up through the roof of your dwelling, out into the sky. Feel it going up through the sky, up through the clouds, and out through the atmosphere, into the vastness of space. See your tendril of light become a beam of light moving out into space among the many glittering stars in the blackness of space. And feel all around you the glittering silver energy of the cosmos, the energy of the stars, the energy of the eternal cycles. And allow that to come in to your beam of energy, and feel that glittering silver light coming down through your beam of energy, down through the atmosphere, down through the clouds, down through the sky, down through the roof of your dwelling, through the top of your head, into your heart. And see your heart fill with the beautiful silver light of the cosmos. And see that beautiful silver light of the cosmos uniting with the golden light of the earth. And feel the silver light of the cosmos spreading out through your aura, spreading out through your body, spreading out through your aura, filling you entirely with beautiful, glittering silver light. And let that silver light come into perfect balance with the golden light of the earth. And as they come into perfect balance, feel yourself come into perfect balance with them. Feel your chakras come into perfect balance. Feel your energy in perfect balance. And know that as you go forward from this exercise, you will be in perfect balance. Now allow your beam of white light to come down from the cosmos, back down through the atmosphere, back down through the sky, back down through the top of your head, and back down into your heart. And feel your beam of white light come up from the center of the earth, up through the bedrock of the earth, up through the soil, up into your body and back into your heart. And feel the strength of the balance that you have achieved within yourself, and take a moment to clear and release all excess energy, keeping what you need, and releasing the rest. And let it run out of you like water, running out through your arms and your legs, and out through your hands and your feet, leaving you in a state of perfect balance and perfectly focused in the here and now. And there you have a simple exercise for balancing your energy that you can do anytime you want. And I think that you will probably agree that it's quite effective. I find it very effective. I hope that you do. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow I will be at a special Ostara event at Earth Spirit Emporium in downtown Danville. If you're in the area, please come by. Um, and Reverend Eric says, "Thank you, Lord Don. This was needed. I'm very glad." Um, Tomorrow, we will be having a best of Midday with Rev Don, which will be an interview with her Beatitude, uh, the, um, the Archpriestess Belladonna Laveau of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, a wonderful individual and a wonderful interview. I hope that you enjoy it. It was done a little while ago, but it's certainly still very interesting. And I will see you hopefully on Sunday evening when we'll be doing, I will be doing my online Ostara and Mabon ritual, working with both Sabbats because I know that we have a viewership all around the world, and that will be here on Corellian TV. And otherwise, I will see you next Monday. So thank you for joining me, and let us close with our prayer as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to continue to be with us as we go forward and to help us to always appreciate the wonder and beauty of this world, the strength of the earth, the serenity of the cosmos, and the joyous union of the two. And help us also to always be mindful of our acts and their consequences, and to live our life in ways that bring us good consequences, to help us always to do the next right thing. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks, and may the blessing be upon you now and always. But I thank you with great love and thanks, and again, I'll see you Monday, and may the blessing be upon you now